Chapter 160. My body twitches and everything is wrong. What happened? I feel like a stranger in my own flesh. Is this my body? Of course it is. Of course. What else would it be? This must be a nightmare. She's coming too. My sister, whom I've never met, declares in my birth language that I've never heard before. What? Oh, it's this again, but weirder. Wait, what again? I open my eyes, sitting up as fear starts to take me. Except I am a princess, so I hold it inside as I have been taught. I am indeed on a bed. A sick bed in the progenitor's chambers, no less. It's quite easy to identify. The ceiling is a brilliant pale marble encrusted with beautiful patterned gems. What honor have I accomplished to deserve to lie here? My head hurts so much. I turn it slightly so I can see the voice I just heard, meeting the worried stare of my sister Telanica. Are you feeling, MMPH? She is yanked out the door by the art of motion before she can so much as finish a sentence, quickly replaced by the stern and suspicious face of my combat instructor, Queen Nagotilka. It seems odd to me that I can judge her expression from her face, since she doesn't have a nose or mouth like the savages below do. Except... What? What do either of those have to do with facial expressions? Nagotilka's eyes tell me everything I need to know about her mood. The slight narrowing at the top and bottom and the expansion at the sides indicate she is focusing on me as much as she can while optimizing her peripheral vision, a clear sign of suspicion. And her face is stern because it's always stern. What is your name? She asks me, which is a good question. I mean a strange question. Melrosa, I tell her. Princess Melrosa. Am I being tested for memory loss? Yes, my instructor tells me bluntly. Your soul has been damaged. Oh, I say, keeping my voice as even as I'm able. That explains a lot, actually. Elaborate on that, Nagotilka orders. Everything feels strange. Foreign. Like I'm looking at it all for the first time. Except I'm not. I still remember it, I just am surprised by remembering it. Does that make any sense? Yes, to some extent, Nagotilka confirms. What's the last thing you remember? I frown, thinking back. Except I don't, because my mouth isn't on my face, it's under my chin and stays tucked away when not in use. My body breathes and speaks through vents along the sides. What was that word I just thought of? Frown? It sounds like something from another language. Wait, Nagotilka will be angry with me if I get distracted. I quickly make a subtle movement with my mandibles, just to feel what it's like, and repress a shudder at the sensation before answering my instructor. The soldiers reported a force of savages managed to infiltrate the lower levels. I find myself suddenly annoyed at the term savages, though I'm not sure why. Where they supposedly bypassed the arcane and physical defenses with ease, and then unleashed some sort of cascading invisible death art, or so they said. So, I tried to convince you to let us engage them. You eventually acquiesced. They evaded our first frost pyramid, countered the second, and dealt enough damage to Telanica's armor to engage its retreat contingency. Two of the enemy combatants kept destroying all my constructs, and I, was about to figure out that their weakness was a concentrated light ray before you told me to use that, but then you did, so I did, and it killed the small one with the strange ekbrasis arts, and then pain deep inside me. Some horrid parasite burrowing where it is not supposed to go, reaching through places nothing is supposed to be. It's a memory of unprecedented terror. Yet also some kind of sick pride. What an accomplishment my own hollowing was. What? Why do I feel that way? I guess I got hit by a pneuma construct? I hedge. Nagotilka regards me silently for a moment before continuing. What is the earliest thing you remember? She asks. Again, I repress a nervous movement. The question gives me pause. What is the earliest thing I remember? Something compels me to say starving, but that's not right. I've never really starved before, and Nagotilka would be mad at me if I referred to her meal-altering punishments as such. Let's see. I remember both times I gave birth to myself, so definitely something from before then. To my dismay, I find most of the recollections fuzzy, imperfect. I pick an arbitrary memory I know I must have, my mother hugging me for the first time, and I find it outside my grasp. The feeling shakes me. I bring 2 hands up to my head. Oh, goodness, I have 4 hands. That's strangely odd. This must be how Lark feels. Wait, who's? Ah. The Vrothizo with the savages. Its name is Lark. Why do I know that? Oh, no. No. These memories aren't mine. That's why I'm in one of the progenitors' sickbeds. That's why I'm being interrogated. If a powerful enough Numa user had access to my soul, I could be in very, very serious trouble. I feel fear again, and it suddenly multiplies. I need to keep this secret. I struggle to recall all but the most important memories of my previous lives, I admit slowly, carefully measuring my words. But everything from my current life seems normal and intact. That's about what I expected, Nagatilka says. Nothing else? No strange impulses? Nothing comes to mind, I lie. I can handle this situation on my own. I'm a skilled Numa artist in my own right, and over halfway to my 5th cycle. I should be expected to manage my own soul at this stage, when you think about it. No need to tell anyone I have anything other than a bit of memory trouble that will doubtlessly get cleared up when I recover. Unexpectedly, Nagatilka rushes forwards, causing me to flinch in terror. Am I being attacked? Did she discover my lie? But no, instead she just wraps all 4 of her arms around me, scooping me up off the bed into a crushing hug. She smells like stress and worry, full of that special kind of mortal terror reserved only for we who are not mortal at all. I am so sorry, Milrosa, she tells me. I was a fool. I was supposed to teach you, to protect you, and now you have lost years that cannot come back. Your soul was severely damaged, my little dustfur. Torn apart from the inside. Your memory core is almost entirely gone. Oh, no. That's why my memories are fuzzy. They're gone, I breathe in horror. They're not coming back. Yes, my teacher confirms, and I feel like I have been struck. Only your current body's memories are preserved. None of your essential functions have been damaged, so they should naturally back themselves up again before the end of your cycle, but my missing memories are gone forever, I finish. I have lost nearly 2 cycles of time. Yes, Nagatilka says again. I'm so sorry. I have failed you. This means I'm a child again. I groan loudly, dropping any pretext of propriety and just giving into my urge to comb my sete in exasperation. 40 years. Gone from my soul in a flash. 40 boring years that no longer count, even the parts I remember. Damn it all. Nagatilka bears this demonstration of despair with thinly veiled amusement. You were a child before, Milrosa, she reminds me patiently. I was basically an adult. I protest. I was 55 years old, Naga. But now only 15 of them count. This is the worst. I won't be allowed to train with you anymore. That is somewhat of a moot point, Nagatilka says, as I will be resigning from my position as war teacher out of shame. I was arrogant, and I let you get hurt in the one way that truly mattered. I never imagined the savages would have an art as powerful as the one they used on you. I've never seen its like before. That chills me. You've never seen the spell before, Naga? I asked her, odd. I am hardly a repository of every spell in the world, she answers, clearly amused. But no, it was a war Numa structure beyond anything I've ever seen. It smashed through both the protections on your armor and your personal soul shield in an instant. I suppose if I were to describe it, I would say it was some variation of a wraith art, but constructed with the savage's own soul. A suicide spell, likely activated by the creature's death. A barbaric act of spite. I bristle a bit at that description, my sete standing up slightly with frustration. It's not be barbaric. I find myself sputtering. It's what? Am I taking offense on behalf of mortals? I might be. I'm mentally compromised. I can't let Naga know. It's not going to be good for me if you tell people I nearly got felled by a barbarian spell. I say. Ha ha. Excellent save, Mortist. Nagatilka laughs at that. Goodness, she has a strange laugh. Somewhere between a hiss and a series of musical notes. Except. That's a perfectly normal laugh. Gah. Curse this affliction 1,000 times. You're quite right, Mortist, she says. I should be generous where generosity is due. The spell was truly inspired in its brutality. Almost as much as the spell which felled all the men in the bottom 3 floors. The bottom 3 floors? All of them? Why that's tens of thousands of servants. How is such a thing? I frown, or at least try to. It's a plague. Somehow I know it's a plague, which is ridiculous because our kind does not get sick, not even the men. At least not by natural diseases. The progenitor ordered a complete, unconditional quarantine of the affected areas and 2 floors above, Nagatilka says solemnly. If not for her wisdom, we likely would have lost much more. The savages have bioweapons, they have pneuma arts. They have advanced much faster than anticipated. What will this mean for the conquest? I ask, odd and afraid and strangely, confusingly proud. Well, that has yet to be decided, Nagatilka says. It will certainly be delayed, as our need to expand has just been temporarily alleviated. Though if you're asking my personal opinion, I wish to go down to those pathetic mortals and avenge what they've taken from you. I don't like that idea. Please don't, Naga, I ask her. Perhaps we should just leave them alone. The other fronts are progressing much more rapidly, we do not need her. The plentiful wood. What was I about to call it? Verdantop. Ugh, the savage language sounds so vulgar. Wait, do I know their language? What? Aga. A voice calls into the room. Stop hogging my sister. You and great-grandmother already checked her while she was out. Is she safe or not? She is safe, Princess Talanika, my teacher calls back. You may enter. Mal. My sister cries out, performing a gliding leap into the room to tackle me on my sick bed like the incorrigible little girl that she is. She nuzzles me, 2 of her arms grooming her own chest setting while the other 2 comb through mine. I was so worried. She whines. My armor barely even got scratched and it took me away from the battle. It was totally unfair. And then you came back unconscious and Naga was freaking out and, I was not, Nagatilka hisses, freaking out, as you put it. And those savages shouldn't have been able to scratch your armor at all. It was that pretty scaled one who did it, Talanika comments. She cast a reversing motion dart on the defensive enchantments and nullified them for a moment. With her tail, I think. Then their pet Vrothizo grazed the armor with a tooth. It was impressive, for a pair of mortals. But it shouldn't have been enough to take me out of the fight. As you know, Princess, your safety is more important than any other part of the war effort, Nagatilka chides. All our safety is more important. If a servant dies it merely hastens the inevitable. But anything you lose is forever. Your sister has lost much today. I am glad the same didn't happen to you. Yes, I heard that, Talanika says mischievously, reaching her arms around me to prod at the base of my wings. Guess who's the little sister now, Tala, no. I protest, but with an evil giggle she immediately starts tickling me. I shriek. Ah, progenitor. Why did you make us capable of being tickled? Is this truly part of your perfect design? Not one to suffer such indignity unopposed, I twist around, leveraging my superior size and strength to get my arms around my assailant and begin my counterattack, causing Talanika to howl with uncontrolled laughter. Ha! I'm no longer the smallest one. 2 points for this freaky buck body, I suppose. I hauled, my mirth gone in an instant. I just thought that. That was my thought. But it's not something that makes any sense for me to think. I need to figure this out. Is it all right if I retire to my chambers? I ask, turning to Nagatilka. My sister's giggles quickly die out as the mood turns serious again. I am still quite tired, and I don't wish to infringe on the progenitor's hospitality. There is an unspoken part of my question. Am I allowed to leave? That's fine, Nagatilka informs me. You are free to move at your leisure, princess. I nod slowly, then catch the motion. What sort of moronic head bog was that? Do I take that to mean you didn't find anything foreign in my spirit? I asked my teacher directly. Tala said you already investigated. Queen Vinatila and I investigated the integrity of your soul personally, my teacher confirms. It is a harrowing sight, little Dustfur. There is a cavern where you once had a glorious gem. But we found nothing left in its place. You are safe, Morosa. Though I suggest you rest before investigating yourself. Which is to say it's not a sight conducive to good sleep. Wonderful. Also, terrifying. Because I clearly am compromised by something, unless the damage is simply driving me mad. That even one of our oldest queens and my teacher together couldn't find it is worrisome. Perhaps I should tell them. No. I will not tell them. I cannot tell them. I'll die if I do, and I know this on a deep, unshakable level. We're inseparable now. Let's not give them any cause to suspect us. To suspect me. I nod, thank my teacher, and depart for my home with haunting terror and macabre curiosity both clawing at the edges of my mind. I don't know what's going on. But I will soon. I merely need to be alone. The progenitor's castle is a truly beautiful place, and the experience of walking through it for what feels like the first time is breathtaking. It's nothing like the lower levels of Hiverak. Which is the first comparison that comes to mind, for some reason, and an abjectly terrible one. The lower levels are built as places in which the men manage war assets. The progenitor's castle is the crowning jewel of our entire civilization, a masterwork crafted by our people's greatest engineers and supplied with every bit of the substantial wealth and opulence we can bring to bear. Yet it isn't merely a gaudy boast of affluence like so many of the homes of queens. The progenitor's home is nothing short of a work of art. The gemstones in the ceiling of the halls are part of a massive mosaic, patterned in such a way that it is impossible to piece together without our perfect memories and knowledge of each part of the home. It has been my honor to collect much of the mosaic over my life, and now nearly all that progress is gone. Tala and I are fairly certain the mosaic depicts the one below all in its terrible wrath, but we've not shared our theories with the queens. That would be cheating. As the only two princesses in Liriope, we are expected to learn and grow at our own pace, not have answers handed to us wholesale by our elders. Of course, the ceiling is far from the only beauty on display. This is the sick hall, and the walls reflect it with their beautiful glyphs, engraved with stunning colored metals I can't begin to identify. They're equal parts art and function, lining the area with spells that remove impurities from the air, block sound between rooms, and encourage restful sleep. It is here in her home that we see the truth to what the progenitor teaches us all. The art is named so because it is art. It is more than simply bending the world to our whim. It is beauty and grace and an expression of mastery that needs no element of pneuma to drive the emotions of any onlooker to rapture. I suppose I could just teleport myself home, but I want to see the rest of Liriope. It seems interesting, from what I can remember, and attempting to craft the art might give me away regardless. Wait, will this condition prevent me from? Oh, no. It won't. Thank goodness. I just need to return home and things will make sense. I wander out into the welcoming hall of the progenitor's castle, admire the lifelike statues of her many bodies, most of which look the same to me, even though they are clearly very different, and step out into the glorious open cavern that is the capital city of Liriope. First and foremost, I soak in the light of the god's Avares, a massive magical construct that takes the appearance of a bright flaming orb, which grants warm, crisp light to our cavern in predictable cycles rather than the inconsistency of the surface. It is thanks to the god's Avares that Liriope is lush with greenery, from shade-giving trees to soft green grass to beautiful arrangements of flowers. All of it is tended to by expert gardener servants by night to ensure that the beauty is perfected with the coming of each dawn. The city is built as a large, spherical cavern, with the center area low and the arched ceiling holding God's address at the highest point. The outer edge holds most of the homes for queens, mighty castles filled with servants, each built to the specifications and whims of its owner. Each queen has her own home, and each home reflects its queen. As a princess I have my own home as well, though it is in the lowest rung of queen homes, where the youngest all rest. I do not mind this, however. Being in the lower rungs merely puts me closer to the center parts of the city, where the servant-run services are offered. It makes walks to the theater, salon, spa, library, or anywhere else I may want to go quite a bit shorter than it would otherwise be, and I prefer to walk or fly than be carried around by my servants on land. As a princess, I have not yet birthed any men of my own, and so my personal entourage is technically beholden to a variety of queens. Not that this makes them any less loyal to me, but I'm looking forward to making a set to my personal specifications. I stop walking for a moment, suppressing an urge to furrow my eyes in a strange way that presumably would signify the annoyance I feel on some other kind of face. I am unbelievably spoiled. Horrifyingly spoiled, really. Everything I have just thought of as a good thing exists on the backs of servants and slaves, and I think of it like that's simply how the world is. This is disgusting. It's Just hold on a moment, me. I have been educated in how lesser cultures perform acts of slavery, and it is certainly revolting and not what is happening here. Other species fail because they are each designed for all things. The savage people of Verdantop, I mean the plentiful wood, are all as much queens as their warriors and servants. Their men are made for the same thing as their women, and both are subjected to servitude, which neither is built for. And they know this is horrible, yet do it anyway. That is not how things are done here. The men are servants, yes, but they literally live to serve. To ask a servant not to obey, not to work for the good of their queen, is to invite in them a most horrible distress. They are born with this desire to serve, they are born with the knowledge of the task they were created for and the expertise required to perform it. And above all, they are born with an instinctive joy in doing it. Savages are savages because they force their will on others out of selfishness and cruelty. Queens are queens because our wills are the happiness of our people made manifest. No one is forced into their actions, here. It is simply what we are. The bubbling indignance in my chest quiets down. For what feels like the 100th time today, I suppress a horrified shudder. There is clearly a foreign will influencing me. Once again I consider turning around and begging for help, but the desire is quashed so hard I find myself incapable of keeping it in my mind for more than a fleeting moment. I have to go home, I have to be alone. So I resume my walk, with that as my intention. The terror makes the time pass rather slowly, but it's not a terribly long walk to my humble home. That is, if you can call a 4-story building designed exclusively around the whims of one person humble. My home is full of things that pertain to my interests. The largest room is my personal library full of spell books and tales of battle, both historical and fictional, but I also have rooms full of magical automatons, mainly small toys, with some even crafted by me. I enjoy working with my hands, and though my designs are not terribly unique or creative, the builder's servants quite outdo me in that area. To my dismay, I still find the process of creation relaxing. But I do not go to these rooms, instead heading directly for my sanctum. It is a room in my home designed for privacy, warded and protected to the full extent of my magical might. It is full of soft and comfy things, and a few items for, self-pleasure. I hurry inside, lock myself in, and wait for whatever horrible thing is about to happen to me. Well, if we are being specific, the horrible thing has already happened. Now I'm just introducing myself. I shudder. My stomach churns. Something is happening in my soul, a horrid weight filling what was once empty. Instinctively, I try to channel the mana of the one below all and let out a cry of pain. It burned my spirit. What? I'm doing it wrong. Obviously. The mana flows up from within myself, filled by the reservoir I know to be me. Still terrified and confused, I use it to craft my pneuma-sensing art, a strange satisfaction filling me as I shape myself so beautifully. I stare deep into my soul, and with my terrifying blue eye, I stare back. Hello, me. Thanks for returning home. It was getting incredibly cramped. I take a deep breath with my new body, pushing back the confused cries of its brain for a little while as I take stock of my new situation. I stretch all four of my arms independently, then move on to flexing my wings, drinking in the strange mix of familiar experiences that are still entirely new. I'm very fuzzy now. My entire chest is covered with what the Thanatos call setae, but it's exactly like fur, so I'm calling it fur. I strip off the fancy cloth garments I've been wearing and head to the magic mirror charm on the wall, realizing with annoyance that I can't actually refuel it since it's made of water mana. Frustrating, but only a minor problem. There's a bit of unused metal a few rooms over that I've been planning to turn into an automaton core, so I quickly go fetch that, cast a spell to turn it into a glyph charger, and align it with the mirror. Melrosa is incredibly good at magic. She's kind of awesome. Just like with Malik, I really don't want to subsume her, but I'm not sure I have any choice in the matter. I have absolutely zero memory of the first time I possessed a body. The second time, I was battle-crazed, feral, and running entirely on instinct. This time, I fully expected to die, and I actually had a plan. Queen souls, or I guess princess souls, in this case, though the differences are cultural and not practical, are incredibly complex but also incredibly organized. In many ways, they are easier to figure out than human souls despite being so much more alien. Most of the soul is a memory center, and it's what I hollowed out to give myself room to hide. Which turned out to be incredibly difficult, since these guys all know animancy or, as they call it, the art of pneuma. I had to integrate enough with this soul to make it mine but also hide my entire physical anima structure inside my mana tunnel, which it is not meant for and was a phenomenally uncomfortable experience from start to finish. But I did it. I'm here and the other queens don't know about me. Now I can move on to the next step of my plan, which is freak out because I don't have a plan. So, I'll focus on taking stock of my situation for now. The mirror finally charges up and flickers to life, letting me examine my new body's anatomy. The white fur is thickest around my chest, thinning out around my belly and vanishing around and below my waist where my breathing vents are largest. My forearms and lower legs are fur-covered, but the rest is just hard, white chitin. My hand structure is particularly interesting. I have 6 fingers on each due to an extra thumb, and they alternate between hard, claw-like chitin and flatter fingers with very, very tiny growths of setae for grip. My first thumb is clawed, my second is grip, my forefinger is clawed, my middle finger is gripped, and so on. The claws aren't really for combat, though. My new memories show me using them for delicate inscriptions and holding very tiny objects like organic tweezers. While my large, segmented eyes are indeed used to express emotion, the way they change is incredibly subtle due to the hardness of my face. It's all chitin, no skin, and it doesn't bend or emote in a human way at all. Instead, each individual hex of the compound I can warp slightly, independently allowing minute optimizations in how I perceive objects I'm focusing on versus objects in my peripheral. Different configurations of eye-hex shape form the basis for all facial expressions in my new species. The more I pay attention to it, the more disorienting it is, so I just decide to move on. My mouth is indeed underneath my chin, and I can see why it's apparently undignified to move it in this culture when I'm not eating. When extended, it's kind of horrifying. 4 mandibles and a stretchy, sticky tongue with chitinous teeth growing out the sides do not exactly make for a pleasant social experience. I apparently enjoy making funny faces with them in the mirror, though, extending the fleshy tendril of a tongue down far enough to almost wrap around my own neck. I spend a while doing that and giggling to myself before investigating the less appealing elements of my body. Let's see. A thorough pat-down indicates that despite a bit of fuzzy poof in that area, I don't have breasts. That's a relief. I know it would be stupid for an insect person to have breasts, but I was still weirdly worried about it. My reproductive system, while unfortunately quite present, is fortunately all internal. And a quick check of Melrose's memories indicates that Thanatos don't get periods. Fuck yeah. This is probably my favorite body yet. Thanatos is a more formal name for the females of my new species, referring to princesses and queens collectively. It literally means without death, which I suppose is why Tekel from above once called me a Thanatos of skin. After all, every single one of them is a lich. Well, kind of. They are not like me, or even like ours. They can't just hop out of their bodies and possess anyone they want. What they can do is, way grosser actually. Except it's not gross, how dare you. It's beautiful and wonderful and actually kind of pleasurable. And shut up, Melrosa, get back in your brain. We get pregnant with a daughter and then we possess our own daughter right before giving birth to her. It's gross. Actually, wait a second on that. I possess people that already have established personhood and lives. That's way worse, isn't it? I try to wrinkle my nose in annoyance and fail, since I no longer have one. I have fuzzy sticks coming out of the top of my head that smell things instead. I wiggle them to try and approximate the expression. Predictably, it mostly just feels weird. Anyhow, speaking of the person whose life I'm subsuming. Hi, Melrosa. I'm Vita, but you already know that because you're currently me, and I'm currently you. We're mostly separate right now, but unfortunately I have to use our body's brain periodically to handle the thinking, or I might go full Nora and lose my personhood. And whenever I use your brain becomes a bit more me and a bit less you. Unless we can use your animancy knowledge to figure out a way around that, I guess. Here, you take the mouth. I mean, the vocal organs, since we don't talk with our mouth anymore. It's very strange that humans do. Melrosa hisses. So we're merging. That didn't go well for your last host. Nope, not at all. So, brainstorming session? What? Oh, you mean. Ugh, your language is awful. Yeah, I prefer yours the more we think in it. So much better, right? So much better. It was designed by an actual linguist for clarity and ease of use, who then shared it with all Thanatos through the art of Numa, who then instilled it in future generations of workers, and now it's the national language. Yes. I know. I have all your memories. And I have yours. That's how it works, yep. So unless you want to stop existing as an individual, we need to investigate the animal-neural linkage pathways, split them, and partition off an area of the brain for your use, would be my first guess, I ponder out loud. But that kind of cranial editing is far beyond my skill level. Of course, we could just get you a different body. But even if you survive the damage I dealt to our soul, I have no reason to believe you'll remain my ally once we separate. Our people are at war, after all. And while I don't want to be at war, and that I in this context does actually refer to our collective self, you, as in what's left of Melrosa, may revert to prior beliefs without my, as in Vita's, direct influence, and if that happens I would be screwed. Which is why, even though I don't want you to die, it's a preferable outcome to the likely alternative of separation, since this optimizes our survival collectively, which is more important to me than the survival of the singular Melrosa, as that is an entity which does not currently exist. I take a deep breath. I guess I have my priorities straight, though worryingly the merger seems to be happening faster than expected. I've done this once before, but it's still absolutely fucking horrifying. Definitely worse than possessing my own unborn daughter. That was a body intended for me from the start, it never had any soul other than my own. I don't answer myself, since it no longer feels useful in regards to sorting my thought process. Shit. I flop back on one of the softer beds in the room, trying to come up with a better solution to the merger problem. I spend hours pouring into it and keep getting distracted, so eventually I get up, toss some clothing back on, and head to my workshop. I carefully start taking one of the broken toy automatons apart, which always helps me think. The longer I fail to find a solution, however, the less likely any found solution is to work in the first place, and the less motivated I am to find a solution at all. After all, the more Melrosa dies, the less reason I have to save her. The horror lessons as the part of me dreading destruction becomes quieter and quieter. This is very different from what happened with Melik. It's nearly 10 hours before I realize it's late into the night, I haven't eaten anything all day, and there's really not much point in continuing. I sigh, exit my workshop, and press a room that calls the servants to deliver food. It's time to focus on other problems, and for these I'll need a clear head. Problem 1, I am now constantly surrounded by animancers, and there's no damn way my ruse will work for long. The queens are skilled enough to see into souls just as easily as glancing at their surface, something the people of the plentiful wit couldn't do, and while I sort of have a way around that, it's going to be inherently suspicious if the vacant memory core I hide my real body in isn't feeling like it should be. Which it won't, because I'm hiding inside it, and that's absolutely the kind of thing Queen Agatilka and Queen Vanatila will check up on. Discovery is inevitable. Therefore, my solution needs to revolve not around preventing discovery, but delaying it long enough to establish a workable explanation for my condition that won't have long-term negative consequences. Problem 2, the long-term negative consequences. The Athanatos are at war with the mortal savages I happen to consider friends and family. I would prefer that my friends and family be left alone, but if there's one thing I've learned about myself, it's that I'm terrible at convincing people to leave things alone. My position as Princess Melrosa certainly puts me in a better bargaining position than before, but not by as much as I'd like. I'm a child, culturally, despite the fact that Melrosa has been alive for 55 years across 3 different bodies, 2 of whom she personally gave birth to. Gah! So disgusting. I mean, my memories of it are actually quite positive, even the sex. And Athanatos don't suffer from childbirth the way humans do, it's entirely painless for them. Just strange. I shudder and start clawing at my chest fur to calm down, which embarrasses me immediately as a servant walks in with the food I ordered and witnesses me do it. Gah! Horribly undignified. According to the servant's soul, however, he doesn't seem to have any problem with it. He's just happy to see me doing well. I guess I'm legally only 15 now, so people will probably expect this from me. Age is measured by the time stored in one's memory core rather than actual physical time from one's initial birth, which usually works quite well. Except specifically in my situation, I suppose. Arg, it's so frustrating. Anyway, problem 3, returning home. I look up from the delicious meal I've been wolfing down at my opulent new home that I designed. A home full of servants that enjoy serving me, right next to a family that loves me, free from strife and violence. As much as Heverik is contributing to how shitty it is to live on Verdantop, Heverik itself seems to be a wonderful place to live. It's borderline utopic, depending on how you view the idea of a serving class that instinctively loves and is satisfied by serving. Even the warriors are happy to die for us. It's what they're made for. Melrosa's life is happy. Genuinely, beautifully happy. Vida's is brutal and horrid, defined by tragedy after endless tragedy. What reason do I have to go back and live as Vida again? I don't want to give up my family back on Verdantop, I suppose, but for that matter I don't want to give up my family here, either. I want to stay. Maybe that will change after a night's sleep. I certainly need one. I retire to my room. This, too, is a beautiful place, better than any other I've lived in before. There's a book on my nightstand that I'm halfway through reading that's quite engrossing. I can turn the lights on and off with simple verbal commands. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It surpasses even the richest of noble homes back in Skyhope by an unfathomable margin, and my home is relatively modest. Even ignoring the servants, the advancements in magical quality of life alone could completely revolutionize any culture we brought it to. But we don't do that. Why? Because the mortals would squander it? Because their lives don't really matter? It sure felt like their lives mattered to me. I get in bed and find myself staring at the ceiling. I don't know for how long, probably hours at least. Regardless, no answers come to me before I pass into slumber. Chapter 161. I wake up in my bed with the horrid, foreboding feeling that I am dead. I almost feel like the experience chills me to my core, but then I recall I do not have one. Right, I remember. I am Vida now. It's quite an odd feeling, to suddenly be someone else. My pleasant life knew nothing of struggle, poverty, need, oppression, hunger, or danger. Up until my very last moments I had been pampered and, in my eyes, functionally invincible. I would have told any asker that I knew I had weaknesses, that I knew I could die, but they were distant things, nothing I truly had any way to understand. And now they are not only in my life thanks to personal experience, but also in a dangerous, immediate sense. I am now a parasite that subsumed my body, and I have every reason to believe my family, friends, and superiors would take issue with this fact, even though I still love them. Additionally, my life is no longer defined by my own hedonistic whims. I have an important objective, ending the hostilities between Liriope and Verdantop, so that both of my families are safe. Which family I choose to stay with is still an open question, but I have until next Hiveric night to think about it as I accomplish my objectives. Progenitor, this is so odd. Even odder than Melik. My thought process is very different, my whole. Everything is different. I don't have a human brain anymore, though a Thanatos' minds at least seem similar. Well, at least this is only the second day of possessing Molrosa. Hopefully I'll continue to normalize and feel more and more like myself as time goes on. I uncurl from my spot in the very comfy nest of a bed I now own. It's pretty much just a big fluffy blob that my body sinks into at the slightest touch, and it is the most comfortable thing I've ever experienced. Sorry, Penelope. The decadence here is staggering. I want to feel horrified and disgusted by it all, but I'm way too busy being completely overwhelmed. Still, I regretfully extract myself from my amazing pillow blob, stretching my wings and noting with discomfort that my current body cannot and does not yawn. I scratch my chest fluff and fail to frown as well. Being a different species is a lot. I'm still wearing the same outfit as last night, a stylized skirt embroidered with delicate glowing runes and nothing else. But people here seem to wear less clothing than humans in general, and I suppose the lack of breasts means there's no particular stigma about shirtlessness for either sex. Furthermore, wearing clothing over top of our thick, sensitive set tends to be somewhat uncomfortable. A lot of queens will wear such clothing anyway, but it's an individual fashion choice, more about expressing oneself and showing off than any sort of necessity. I think I'll quickly develop a fashion sense that revolves around constantly wearing as much armor as I can get away with, but the important bit for now is that I'm not underdressed when I stagger my exhausted ass out of my room. Unfortunately, I still manage to scare the shit out of the poor worker standing watch on the other end. Princess Molrosa. He blabbers. My apologies. We did not know you were awake. Your bath is not yet ready. I'll have it started immediately. I blink in surprise, or at least do a thing where I contract every hex in my eyes to briefly cut off my own vision. I don't think that's a normal facial tic in a Thanatos, so I'll have to try and break the habit. Which means that's two mistakes I've just made literally right after waking up. Molrosa has a morning routine, and she starts it by signaling her servants when she wakes up. I totally forgot to do that. Whoops. It's nothing to worry about, I insist. Do inform me when everything is ready. The worker visibly relaxes, and I once again try and fail to frown. Yes, princess. He insists. That was entirely my fault, but I can tell from his soul that the worker blames himself for this failure. He literally exists in order to serve me, after all. He doesn't care about why my bath isn't ready, only that I walked out of my room and it wasn't, and he's distressed about it. I wonder if they're even capable of blaming me. I'll have to be more careful, I don't want to hurt the weird little guys. They remind me of my revenants for obvious reasons. My bath is soon ready, a fact for which I am grateful. I do feel dirty, which is a rather unique experience on my part. Both of my last two bodies got dirty and knew they should get clean, sure, but they didn't really care about the being dirty part as long as things weren't egregiously bad. Melrosa, meanwhile, feels itchy after only a day's worth of, well, I won't say sweat, since I don't do that anymore, but a day's worth of grime, I guess. It's very odd. I'm still looking forward to enjoying the bath, though. Somehow I doubt Melrosa's life will ever stop surprising me with how many things she looks forward to. That used to be a pretty rare occurrence for me. Now it's hourly. I hug myself with all four arms. From Melrosa's perspective, my life was kind of a horror show, huh? Of course, that's partially Hiveric's fault, so I shouldn't be too happy about my current situation. I'm led into my home's personal bath, all heated and ready for me. I stop and wait. This is, presumably, the part where I get undressed and bathe myself. The workers do not leave. The, male workers do not leave the bath. Oh shit, I'm supposed to get in with them so they can wash me. This is 20 pounds of fuck that in a 10-pound sack, thank you very much. I'm not only supposed to get naked here, but I'm supposed to let people touch me while I'm naked. No way. I'm shaking at the thought of it. Fuck this. I'm no stranger to public bathing, it's 100% the norm in Vaca. But it's not only segregated by sexes, it's very firmly understood that nobody touches each other unless they're like a mom or dad washing their kid. Bathing is fine. Bathing with other people is fine. Bathing with people of the opposite sex is probably fine too. I just spent a month or so with a dick. But getting touched by someone while I'm bathing? No. 1,000 million times no. I think the worst part is how many memories I now have of liking it. I used to enjoy being pampered like this. It used to be one of my favorite things. And now it's ruined forever because my memory core has been replaced with a traumatized demigoddess who spent an entire decade of her life desperately trying not to get raped in the street. What the fuck is wrong with Vaca? Holy shit, I'm really starting to see why the Athanatos think of humans as savages. Jury's still out on whether mind control Leerope is a marvel or a horror, but at least we don't have to deal with that. Princess. One of the workers asks hesitantly. Is everything all right? I take a deep, calming breath. Your work, as always, is exemplary, I say slowly, but for reasons unrelated to it I believe I would like to bathe alone today. I'm afraid I'm still extremely stressed from the recent battle. I feel sympathy from them, not distress. Good. Of course, Princess, the worker says, and departs with the others. I allow myself an indulgent groan once I'm alone, and then I strip and get into the water. It's a weird experience all around. Between my fuzz-covered body and the way the breathing slits in my sides close up as they become submerged, it all serves to remind me how far from human I've become. The bath water is much shallower than the Vita side of me is used to, because I can't even get my shoulders wet without holding my breath. My huge, fuzzy wings quickly soak up water as well, and I soon feel like I'm 3 times heavier than I used to be. As I start going through the motions of repeatedly soaping, scrubbing, rinsing, and combing every single part of my damn body, I start to realize why Melrosa normally lets multiple other people work together to do it all for her. Oh well. I take probably 2 hours in the bath, so what? It gives me more time to think. I dry myself off with magic when I'm done, put on the fresh new underthings and skirt my servants left me, and head to the dining room to scarf down breakfast. I bring the food up to the bottom of my chin, which then unfolds into a horrifying collection of mandibles so I can scoop up the food with my spiky tongue, chew a little by masticating with said tongue, and swallow it. I'm not even gonna lie, I think it's kind of cool. I also have to admit, albeit begrudgingly, that the food tastes incredible. It's also amazingly hardcore. My meal is a sort of gelatinous, meat-textured orb that is, apparently, the solidified vomit of a beetle species that has been bred and biomanced by the local gourmand queen for close to 1,000 years. Like, think about that. This hedonist moth lady has been crafting the perfect food for a literal millennia using nothing but magic and fucking bug vomit, and it tastes absolutely amazing. Best thing I've ever eaten in my life, and it even covers the most important part of food, it fills me up. The lingering bits of my mammalic instincts think that the entire meal is disgusting in both concept and execution, but this just further proves he had the worst opinions on food in the entire world. Well, maybe that's too harsh. I did hollow out his soul, permeate his flesh, and assume his identity while he slowly watched himself die via subsumption. It's only fair to cut the guy some slack. On the other hand, he's just a mortal, so it's not like he wasn't gonna die soon anyway. I blink, then try to wrinkle my nose and fail. That's a thought I'm going to have to keep an eye out for, aren't I? Properly sobered, I quickly finish my meal and try to figure out what comes next, in terms of my plans. I don't have any plans. Princess, a servant addresses me with deference. You have 2 messages. 2? An abnormally high number this early in. Well, actually it's probably almost afternoon, and also I nearly died yesterday, so actually it's not that weird at all. Please give me them, I say, prompting him to continue. Your associate, Vigor, has requested entry to your castle at your earliest convenience, the servant reports. And your sister would like to make arrangements for a shared dinner. I suppose I now have plans. I stretch out my soul sense, trying to get a better handle on everything around me. Lyriopia is an alien place, and it takes a lot of direct focus for me to pick out things of importance. Every soul here is rich and complex. I'm sure I'll figure out how to read them quickly and easily like I can with human souls, but I've barely been here a day. Anyway, I reach out and try to get a feel of my home and beyond. Sure enough, I find 2 people waiting just outside my home, one of them feeling mildly impatient. They are oddly similar and close together, though. Like, really close together. What's? Oh. Past memories from all my bodies crash together at once. Holy shit, I never thought I'd be doing this again. Please let Vigor inside, I instruct the servant, and he bows, heading off to do exactly that. He's apprehensive about Vigor, and generally worried about the fact that I associate with them. I can hardly blame the poor servant. My memories are disturbing, at least from my current perspective. Soon enough, the servant escorts in what appears to be another worker, but the new worker body before me is little more than a shell. Its soul was constructed with the explicit purpose of not being a person, so that the real host of the body could survive with some bare semblance of ethics. Vigor, after all, is an aura. I would have no problem with this if he wasn't also my lover. Ever since I first started integrating with this body, I knew Mortist has lovers. All Thanatos do. Our method of immortality involves getting pregnant, after all, and our servants are our own children. We design the souls of said children ourselves, while they are still in the womb, destroying the raw anima the one below all grants them and using it to craft something entirely our own. Our souls are completely artificially designed, meaning our species can have talents the way mortals and fauna sometimes do. But the result is that we can create whatever sort of person we desire. As long as a queen has a given bit of knowledge, she can pass that knowledge to her children so that they know it from the moment they are born. Our engineers literally come out of the womb with a complete body of engineering information, not to mention language, law, and the basic capacity to take care of oneself. They also enjoy engineering, instinctively knowing satisfaction when they perform well in their area of expertise. The men are not controlled through force or brainwashing. They are not puppets. They are simply people that are good at what they do and like doing it. What could be a more fulfilling life than that? They are still individuals, of course, and occasionally one of them gets it into their head that they'd prefer to be something they are not. These men are rare, but when they do show up they are begrudgingly tolerated, mostly because we Thanatos realize that our veneer of Numa-induced tyranny loses its coating of benevolence if those that step out of line are abused. But they are generally replaced, and of course every new child must be birthed by a queen. This naturally necessitates quite a bit of sex. As a princess, I am not yet fully trained in the art of soul creation and resultantly I am not allowed to have sons. But our bodies tend to only remain in peak condition for 20 to 30 years, at which point they start to rapidly deteriorate and falter with age. This requires us to create new bodies, and we do so by having a daughter. We're able to choose the sex of our children and replacing the daughter's soul with our own shortly before birth. Rosa was 55 years old before I ate the bit of her that determines continuity of age, and she conceived a new body for herself on her 20th birthdays. I remember the experiences intimately. It was quite enjoyable at the time. Unfortunately, Vita continues to be a joyless parasitic wretch, and I can no longer conjure a stronger emotion than disgust when recalling the experience. Anyway, Vigor was my partner both times, though they used different host bodies to prevent issues with inbreeding. And even though my current body has not yet had that particular birthday party yet, I've certainly put it through its paces, so to speak. The same internal system that allows us to regulate the sex of our children also allows a Thanatos to simply choose not to get pregnant, and our bodies reach sexual maturity after less than 2 years of physiological growth. Thank the progenitor that we don't grow at the horribly slow rate that humans do. Our bodies are designed mainly for people that are already adults, and I'm not a fan of remaining small and weak any longer than I have to. My point is, recreational sex has been part of my life for nearly my entire life, yet now I don't want other people to so much as touch my wings, let alone anything more intimate. It kind of hurts, in a way I don't really understand. Vigor knows me quite well, but the me they know is basically dead. They are going to notice something is up. It's been a long time since I've had to play con artist, and I find I no longer have the energy for it. Hey, princess, Vigor greets in that easy, relaxed way of theirs. I hear you got into a pretty bad scrap. You doing okay? I look up at them from where I sit. I suppose I could also say I look up at him, as the Nora tolerates whatever form of address is appropriate for their body, but I've known Vigor long enough to be aware they identify more as a translucent slime controlling a body than the body itself. Vigor is an oddity in our community. We host few of their kind, and treat them as somewhere between worker and a Thanatos. Some of the queens believe we should cast them all out entirely, but the progenitor won't hear of it. At the end of the day, they are not terribly dangerous to us. Most of the queens are immune to slime-based possession via one method or another. I'm not, or at least I wasn't until I became Vita. Though this was mostly by design. I used to enjoy partaking in a bit of, consensual body control? For various recreational purposes? Oh shit, no wonder it was so easy to convince Rosa to keep me a secret. Wow, I'm just gonna dump all those memories in the don't think about it pile. No, Baba, I tell the Nora. I'm not doing okay at all. That seems to surprise them. Oh, Vigor answers. Is it okay if I sit? Let's go somewhere more comfortable than the dining room, I sigh, waving my worried servants away. It's so weird that I have servants. Like, yeah, I've had mind slaves before, but I usually let them do their own thing? Or at least give them a task that doesn't involve waiting on me hand and foot. Yeah, okay, I'm not really any better than the people of Liriope, and I shouldn't even try to pretend otherwise. I lead them into my warded private room, which I immediately regret when they assume I've brought them here for sex. I give the Nora my best serious glare, though, and sit down at my desk rather than the bed. Pretending to be a perfectly normal Rosa isn't going to happen, so I'll need to play up my memory loss instead. I got messed up pretty bad out there, Baba, I admit. One of the savages died casting a Numa spell on me that destroyed my memory core. Oh holy shit, Mal, I'm sorry, Vigor says. So, you need me to give you your memories back. I blink before I can remember that's not a real Thanatos expression. What? I ask, dumbfounded. What do you? Oh duh, you're Nora and you have my memories. Gah, why didn't I think of that? Vigor goes deathly still for a moment, a traumatic flash and deep fear cutting through their soul all at once. Eh, you had a big scare, they say like nothing's wrong. It's okay to forget things when you have literal memory damage. So, shall I? I swallow. Yeah, I don't think I can let it slide. Worst case scenario, I'm certain I can beat them in a fight. Hold on, I insist. What's wrong? What did I say? They ask innocently. You just reacted badly to something I said, I press. Don't think I can't read you, we know each other better than that. Vigor regards me motionlessly for a moment before leaning forward in his seat. Where the fuck did you hear the name Nora? They ask. Huh? Is that not? Oh holy shit, that's not what we call them. Mortist has no memory of calling them Nora, they are just referred to as clear ones. Damn it. What does it matter? I protest. I probably read it in a book somewhere. Well, destroy that book, Vigor growls at me. It's both dangerous and inaccurate. But why? I ask. What does Nora mean? I thought it was just another name for your species. They glower at me for a while, then shift their weight. It's part of a name for our species, Vigor clarifies. Our true name. Only we're supposed to know it. But since you've already heard it, we are the children of Nora. I suggest you never repeat those words again. Okay. That's very strange. None of the Nora or clear ones, I guess, from Verdantop had any negative reaction or even idea of what Nora meant, it just got into our records somehow. But children of Nora actually makes sense. Nora isn't a word in either of the languages I now speak, but it certainly sounds like a name. I have a lot of questions, I admit. Yeah, well, not as many as I do, Vigor counters. You're acting very weird. You wouldn't mind just letting me in on it, would you? They holds out their hand, they offer to possess my body clear. That's probably not going to happen again, I say firmly. Sorry. We can still be friends if you want. But today I've been freaking out if my own servant so much as touch me. I try to think of a good, believable lie. One comes to me easily, since it's also the truth. I didn't know what war would be like until I fought in one, I say. You underestimated the savages and got burned for it, eh? Vigor remarks. Yeah. Okay. I won't push you, princess. But if you ever want to relax and unwind. Thank you, Vigor, but no, I growl. I need some time to recover and figure myself out. I'm confused about a lot of things right now. I barely even feel like myself. And isn't that an understatement? Well. Vigor sighs, standing up. I'll leave you to it, then. Don't be a stranger, princess. Not if I have a choice in the matter, Baba, I answer, and let them leave. I get up as well, albeit briefly, and quickly collapse into bed. I already feel exhausted, and the brief chat with Baba has me thinking about a lot. First and foremost, I realize that now I know 2 languages, so there's something I need to try. I close my eyes and let my focus drift into the deepest parts of my soul, freeing my attention from my flesh and my brain. I am, at least for now, no longer Mortist. I am simply power, and mana, and vita. And I have someone I'd like to ask a question. I use a single point of mana to poke at the blackness next to me. Once again it stirs, a slight fear and aggression to it that quickly subsides when it acknowledges me. I send it a greeting, which it reciprocates. Then, I write out something in a Thanatos script. Can you read this? Excitement. Recognition. Joy. Yes, my elder in power responds. Oh, holy shit. I send excitement of my own, apprehension, and a little bit of disbelief. I have a lot of questions, if that's okay. Amusement. Agreement. Ask away. I have plenty of my own. Chapter 162. I must admit, the Black Manta writes to me, I'm particularly surprised that you even exist. I'm quite sure you weren't self-aware just a few decades ago. I squirm with embarrassment, though I'm not sure why that should be embarrassing. I guess I wasn't. I admit. But I still existed, right? Just as like a mindless mass precisely, the Black Manta responds. It's lovely to have a friendly neighbor again after so long. Friendly neighbor. I like that. I definitely want to remain friendly with the black mana, and not just because I could be completely annihilated by them the moment they decide it's worth the effort. I take it you've had some unfriendly neighbors then? I prompt. Annoyance. Fear. Let's just say our Big Brother Yellow is a rather poor host. Big Brother Yellow. Only one entity I can think of to fit that bill. You mean the one below all? I ask. Joy. Interest. Apprehension. Ah, so we even live on the same world. Black writes happily, forming their mana into a vague image of the Mistwatcher. Yes, they are one and the same. I am, unfortunately, adjacent to our yellow elder on this side of things, and I suspect I will not survive for long if it finds out I'm self-aware. Do avoid bringing any attention to me, would you? I can tell from the emotions they're sending that there's an implied or else. Which is fair. I'd also threaten someone if I thought they might sell me out to an eldritch monstrosity. No worries here, I reassure the black mana. Misty and I aren't on the best of terms. Last time he spotted me on the corporeal side he tried to kill me. I don't want his attention any more than you do. Wonderful news, they respond. Any ally against that thing is welcome, but I don't often get an ally that matters as much as you do. I must say, I'm quite curious as to your origins. Well, that makes two of us, I answer, deflecting a bit because I'm not quite sure I want to be giving out my personal information here. What are we, exactly? Like, we're mana, right? Conscious mana. Extrauniversal conscious mana, yes, they confirm. I don't have all the answers, but I have some solid theories if you'd like to hear them. Absolutely, I answer. Well, we exist in two different universes simultaneously, the black mana explains. That much is obvious. What's not so obvious is which bits of us originally came from which universe. It isn't? I ask. There's nothing here but mana. So the mana comes from this universe, everything else comes from the other universe. I have my doubts on that, they muse. I personally suspect anima originally comes from this universe as well. The substance souls are made of as our food source. It is how we grow. How could we even exist if it didn't come from here as well? Wait, I interrupt them. Eating souls grows my soul back in the other world, but it doesn't seem to do anything here in the Mont Ocean. Ooh, Mont Ocean, I like that. I'm stealing it. But also, you're silly and wrong. Haven't you ever pulled anima onto this side? Huh? I pull off one of my soul shards and, rather than swallowing it how I usually do for souls, I try to pull it through my mana tunnel like I do with metal. And? It works. It gets all the way through the tunnel and, instinctively, I tear it apart, converting it into a comically tiny amount of mana. Huh? I guess. I can do that, I admit. It doesn't really seem worth it, though. Ah, you're not thinking exponentially, sweetie. You are large enough to power an entire world for countless years. Of course 1 soul is nothing. 1 million souls is nothing. But 1 billion? 1 trillion? More? That is when we start to grow. I signal discomfort, but also understanding. That's what your Vrothizo are, I conclude. An exponentially growing soul-devouring service. Exactly. The black mana confirms, signaling happiness. Marvelous little creations, aren't they? I've tried so many different ways to accelerate my growth, but the black ma have been the most successful by far. Lovely little things. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, I admit. They've sorta been fucking up my island? Is there any way you could get them to stop killing everything? I'm taking a risk with that question, but I have to ask. There's too much to gain from it. I don't want to make them mad, but if they're the source of all Vrothizo, they are responsible for all the awful things they're doing to Verdantop. Though both thankfully and worryingly, they signal amusement rather than anger. You've already conquered an island for yourself, Little Blue. I'm impressed. Sadly, I have no direct control over my hungry little mouths, but likewise it doesn't hurt me at all if they are slain. Feel free to remove them from your territory. Well, Turns out the creator of the Vrothizo doesn't really have much respect for sentient life. Who could have guessed? At least we're neither better nor worse off than we were before. Still, wow. Vrothizo are a bioweapon, but they are not just a bioweapon. They are remote mouths for Black's otherworldly stomach, ones that are detached enough from them to be entirely disposable. My neighbor here doesn't even have to do anything to get more powerful, it just happens over time as the Vrothizo do all the work. It's terrifyingly efficient, and despite how awful it is I can't help but feel a little jealous. I think they pick up on that, as they once again project amusement. You are young and small, little blue, they tell me. Your strategies will evolve as you do, and you will eventually find yourself unburdened enough to seek strength this way. Your mortal ties are not weaknesses, but they will fade with time. The game of the gods consumes all by its very nature. Brief, small things can be beautiful, but if you don't get caught by our elder brother you'll find that, over time, they eventually become repetitive. I mentally scowl. I didn't exactly ask for personal advice, and I make my annoyance clear. I've already decided I'm not giving up the things I love about being a person, and a big part of that is people. They pick up on the fact that they've bothered me, though, and emote an apology. We collectively decide to move on. If the one below all is my elder brother, what does that make you? I ask. I have my suspicions already, of course. Your elder sister, naturally, the Black Manta responds. You may call me Nora. Called it. Shit, she's quite the bioweapons manufacturer. So you created those mind control slimes as well, then? Surprise. Delight. I did indeed. My elder sister confirms. They were some of my earlier experiments into feeding myself. They are a resounding failure by today's standards, but back when I originally created them I was quite proud. They were a more ethical solution to the problem of soul consumption. Or good. Mind control slimes are Nora's idea of ethical. That's not a giant red flag, no siree. I can't help but project raw indignance, which Nora seems to find delightful. I'm serious. She insists. My gooey little children rapidly copy the soul of the host. As such, they can be used to repeatedly farm a particularly valuable soul without harming the original. They torture the original with horrifying body control powers. I protest. Plus, the slimes themselves become people, and you're still killing them. Well, true, but I also made them inherently evil. So killing a clear one only kills bad people, which is good. I roil in disbelief for a bit. That sounds phenomenally stupid. It also kind of sounds like something I would say. I'm not entirely sure how to respond. You, aren't serious, are you? I ask desperately. I'm mostly joking, Nora laughs. I mean, the clear ones are evil, mainly because they all have an instinctive desire to maintain control over their host even to the host's detriment, but that was mostly installed so I could also use them for espionage. The espionage bits were actually an afterthought, if you can believe it, but they ended up much better at that than as sustenance. Happy little accidents, you know? Not really, I admit. I haven't exactly gotten into the habit of making entire species. Ah, well, Nora dismisses. To each their own. And on that note, I'd love to know how best to refer to you, little sibling. I hesitate. Nora is obviously dangerous, and I'm not really sure if she's on my side or not. Unfortunately, she picks up on my apprehension. If I wanted to harm you, little one, I would not need to know the identity of your flesh to do it, she reminds me. But I do not intend to do anything of the sort. At worst you are an enemy of my enemy. At best, you are one of the only people that can truly become a longtime friend. Besides, I'm not in the habit of killing children. Except that she is, because of Vrothizo. But I guess there's no need to point that out. Honestly, that last bit might have been another joke. My name is Vida, I tell her. And little sibling is fine, I guess. Or sister. I'm usually female, at least. She vibrates with delight. Ah, the joys of ligdom, yes? It's certainly an experience, I answer non-committally. Well Vida, it's lovely to meet you, Nora writes. Our kind are few and far between, and Big Brother is not exactly a conversationalist. I'm glad my existence could be a pleasant surprise for you, I remark. Me too. Nora agrees. Now then, a good while ago I believe I was talking about my theory of what we are. Ah, right, we got sidetracked. Do tell. Gladly. Now, what all do you know about our world? As in this world, our original world, the one we are talking in right now. Not a lot, I admit. There doesn't seem to be anything here but us. Counting the mindless ones, I mean. That's about everything there is to know, actually. I've used remote viewing spells to try to chart out our universe, but there's nothing. Everything in this dimension seems to be our little multicolored ball of mostly inert mana, and then nothingness. Void. Not even air exists, just emptiness. Wow, I comment. Our world kind of sucks. It's quite terrible. Nora agrees. But that's where my theory comes in. I think this place used to be far more than mana and void. I think there were worlds here, possibly even civilizations, though possibly not. So what happened? I prompt obediently, since I can tell she's pausing for effect. We did, she writes slowly. We consumed it all. We lived in an incomprehensibly large world of anima, and we ate it because we are nothing but gluttony and power. Our universe is dead, and we are the only survivors of our own mindless voraciousness. I hesitate. On one hand, that seems like kind of a stretch. It's all conjecture, and we both know that. None of us have memories of what we were before we were conscious, by definition. But it also feels horribly right. When I pulled that chunk of soul into my ocean just now, I didn't even think before ripping it apart and making it into more of me. So we're all gathered together in this ball of mutual annihilation because this spot probably held the last bit of non-mana substance left in the world, I say, seeing the natural end to her theory. We devoured it all, and when there was finally nothing left we just stopped. Until we were pulled into the universe where our physical bodies now reside, Nora confirms. Yes. You understand. But how were we pulled through? I ask. And once we were pulled through, we were inside an anima construct. Why didn't we just eat our own souls and die? Why does our soul give us consciousness? Nora feels pleased at my questions, in the way a teacher might enjoy a bright student. It reminds me of learning from Theodora. Because our souls are a clever little mousetrap, she answers. An absolutely genius bit of design that calls us in, traps us, and binds us to our vessel. Not even I know the full extent of how it works, but I'm deciphering it bit by bit. My soul was simply modeled after the one below all. I assume yours was too? Yeah, I confirm. I believe something or someone created the one below all, Nora says firmly. Either an attempt by one of our victims to escape this world or an attempt by some fool overfull shy to bring magic to that world and harness it. I lean towards the latter, but either way it seems their attempt ended in horrific, catastrophic failure. Unless the creator just wanted to watch another universe die the way ours did, I suppose. Wait, what do you mean by that? I ask. The Mist Watcher isn't destroying the world, it is the world. And it's not mindlessly devouring everything, it's cultivating us. We're more like a farm than a buffet. That's not an inaccurate way to see things, Nora concedes. And I couldn't tell you how intelligent the one below all truly is, only how terrifying. Perhaps you will be able to understand soon. It's been about a century since the last sky break, so we're due for another. I managed to write out. I do not like the sound of that. What's a sky break? Suffice to say there is a lot more to this world than you know, Vita, and I believe Big Brother has no intention of leaving any of it for us. The only reason we still live is that we're beneath its notice. The difference in strength between you and I is incomparable to the difference between us and it. Well duh, I answer her. It's the world. It's our world, Nora agrees. And unfortunately we are stuck here, doomed to subsist as leeches suckling the teats of a god. But now is a terrible time for depressing thoughts. I've quite enjoyed our conversation, Vita, but I really should return to managing my worldly affairs. Welcome to the family, such as it is. Sorry to cut things short. We'll talk again soon, promise. Do try not to die horribly the way Red did. Wait, how did the Red Mana die? The same reason most people get killed by gods. Hubris, of course. Ta-ta now, little sister. I open my eyes back up to light, returning my senses to my physical form. Ah, I even managed to keep breathing while in my ocean this time. Progress is nice. Also, wow, the creator of the Brothizo is really chill for a person that casually seeds bioweapons around. And she considers me family, I guess? She feels more like an eccentric aunt than a sister, but whatever. Huh. That's a thought I can have context for now. Man, it's weird not being an orphan. Speaking of sisters, though, I believe I have an appointment with Talanika. Sure enough, I glance over to my wall and see one of the runes glowing red, which indicates a servant has requested my presence at my earliest convenience. I get up with a sigh and exit my privacy room, finding one of the men waiting just outside. Yes? I prompt. We have multiple outfits ready for your perusal, my servant reports. Are any of them armor? I ask. That surprises him. No? The man answers hesitantly. I'd like to wear armor to the outing, I say. What options do we have? Well, your war armor isn't here, of course, the servant stutters with surprise. But we have a few ceremonial sets. The most functional one, please, I declare, and he scurries off to go fetch it. I head to the changing room, where I know they'll eventually bring my choice of outfit. The current choices on display are all pleasing to me, or at least to my Morosa half. I like bright colors, and I like keeping my arms and wings free. A variety of skirts and simple shawls therefore adorn the room, carefully prepared by servants who are attuned to those preferences. Unfortunately, I'm a different person now, and since I can't get away with pretending otherwise, I may as well adopt the habits that make the most sense from each half of me. Armor is definitely the ideal fashion decision. I suppose it'll be a bit heavy, but only until my natural biomancy starts upgrading my already powerful frame. Despite Morosa's only middling inclination for exercise and combat training, she's physically much stronger than any human. That's one of many advantages to being a bioengineered species, I suppose. A few sets of armor are eventually wheeled in. They are not full metal plate like our war armors, but naturally I don't personally own anywhere near that much metal. Those were just on loan from my instructor for the duration of the battle. Besides, they wouldn't really be ideal. The main feature of the war armors is the teleportation system that automatically retreats us if the armor takes any physical damage. If I get injured during a fight in Liriope, teleporting to Liriope doesn't really seem like it would be very helpful anyway. No, my personal armors are much more modest. They are mostly made of dragon scales with only a handful of metal engravings. I got 2 of them as presents from my instructor for reaching important milestones in my combat training, while the third is one I've been assembling and designing myself. It's pretty neat, and it's made mostly out of cyan-colored scales that match beautifully with my darker blue mana. I'm definitely going to cannibalize some of these other armors to enhance and complete it soon. But for now the red sediment magic armor my instructor may prove it as much better protection. I make my choice, don the Akaton for padding, and hold my arms out to let my servants attach the rest of the armor. It's quite the complex set, even going so far as to enclose the wings in scaly protections that have to be individually attached piece by piece. I'm still not a big fan of the servants touching me, but it's much more tolerable when I'm already heavily dressed and getting clothing put on. Once they're done, I relax considerably. Nothing like being covered in dragon scales spell to disrupt incoming magic to make a girl feel at ease. I'd feel even better if I had a sword or spear, but I don't own either, and that'd be pushing the limits of what could be called fashion anyway. Besides, I'm a princess from a highly advanced magical species. Having all my hands free honestly makes me much more dangerous than holding a weapon. That doesn't make the nagging feeling in the back of my head quiet down, but it's still true. Fashionably armored up, I decline escort and exit my home, walking towards where I feel Talanika waiting for me. She emotes surprise and a bit of concern when she sees my outfit, but it only lasts a moment before she happily bounces towards me, scooping up two of my gauntleted hands in her own empty ones. It's okay for her to touch me. She's family. Mal mal. Tala greets me happily. You made it. Of course I did, I say, feeling an instinct to smile but being unable to follow it. I said I would come, didn't I? Oh, half the time you get caught up in one of your little projects and forget all about me, she teases. It's always a 50-50 with you, unless I barge into your house and fetch you myself. No it's not. I sputter in protest. 70-30, at least. Oh, you're right, my sister sighs dramatically. I suppose I was being too generous. Tila, I protest, eliciting a cackle from her. She squeezes me into a hug, which I reciprocate. I love my sister. Given the situation, that might be a bad thing, because now I have to be afraid of it fading away in a few days. Oh progenitor, I hope that doesn't happen. Every part of me needs all the love I can get. Mal mal. Talanika asks, seeming to sense my tension. She pulls back from the hug slightly. Hey. I'm here for you, you know? Yeah, I agree. I know. You wanna talk about it or take your mind off of things? She asks. Well, I probably should talk about it, at least with someone. I'd like to take my mind off things, I tell her instead. Well then, I've got just the thing for you, she says happily. A new catharsis fiction play dropped today. A new what? That's a weird way to. Oh, wait, I know what this is. She's saying it like that because she is referring to a new play literally written by a man named to bring catharsis through fiction. He's exceptionally talented, and I really enjoyed all his other plays. A new one coming out is pretty much the perfect surprise, and I suspect Tala might have pushed him to release it today for my sake. I'd be worried that would hurt the quality of the play by denying the actors the time to practice, but catharsis fiction is a very intelligent man. He almost certainly expected something like this to happen due to one queen or another. Thank you, Tala, I say. That sounds wonderful. My reaction must be quite a bit more tepid than she expected, because it once again worries her. She gives me one more squeeze and then starts dragging me towards the theater, a smile in her eyes. There will likely be other queens at the theater, and while it's unlikely any of them are going to look deep into my soul, I still squeeze myself into my manta tunnel, just in case. Gah, it's so uncomfortable in here, and when I'm completely hidden I can barely sense other souls at all. It's like it used to be, back when I first awakened to my power. It's awful, but I guess it's better than being discovered. We file into the theater and easily find premium stall seats, since they're reserved for Thanatos anyway. We could watch from the upper floors, I suppose, since our eyesight is more than good enough to see the expressions on the faces of the actors even from far away, but I've always preferred to be close. A lot of men are already here in the seats behind us, as they tend to file in early. The play begins once all Thanatos that have expressed interest arrive. After a few queens file in around us, the lights dim and silence descends in the room. The show begins. It's beautiful. I don't think I'll ever be able to describe it. It's so passionate, so absorbing that it's easy to forget it's not real. My problems fade away for a while as I laugh and gasp and feel my heart torn asunder by people who aren't even actually being hurt. I wonder if the experience would be ruined for me if I wasn't blinding myself by hiding my soul. Are these actors just focused and stressed, delivering their lines without really feeling what they seem to be feeling? I'm not sure it would hit me so hard, if that were the case. But perhaps they really are as passionate as they seem. Perhaps the raw, unbridled emotion in their words is carried by something equally dear to them, something they put out into the world every time they play their part. The story itself is simple by Thanatos standards, almost cliché. But it's masterfully done, hitting painful moments head-on where its contemporaries would brush past them. Plus, it's still new to half of me, and I love it all the more for that. The plot stars a male architect and the queen he works for. Amusingly, The main queen is actually played by a queen, the very same one that created this theater, in fact, while every other queen character is played by a man dressed as one. I don't think that's intended as any sort of meta-commentary. There simply aren't many queens both interested in and capable of acting at this level. Anyway, the crux of the plot revolves around the architect's brilliant mind and constant desire to design new things. He's obsessive about his work to the point of a bit of obvious self-destruction, managed mainly by the queen he works for, who favors him where his own mother did not and gives him leave to build many of his creations. It's not a romance, not really. Mostly Ryopi romance tends to be between same-sex couples because of the enormous class gap. But the architect, to craft a better city, loves his queen as all men do and goes to great lengths to constantly improve on his designs, crafting countless innovations and improvements of technique. As such, his queen lavishes him with great praise and even takes him as a consort to create the next generation. The story follows to craft a better city's entire life, starting with his birth and ending with a scene in which the nameless queen sits with to craft a better city on his deathbed. It hurts, my queen, to craft croaks. Just say the word, my highest, and I will help you pass beyond, the queen offers gently, struggling to say the words through her grief. Not that, Tecraft says. My body hurts, but it is a small pain compared to my mind. There is so much more I wish to do. You have done more than enough, the queen insists. You have revolutionized your field. None have compared to you for 100 years. Your wisdom will live in me forever, and be the guide for generations to come. And yet, Tecraft almost sobs, you deserve more. And so he dies like that, hand in hand with his queen, an honor far beyond what nearly any man could hope for. But he still dies, his ambition far outstripping his 20-year lifespan. And while still mourning him, the queen gives birth to his successor, also named to craft a better city. The queen is revealed to have been the narrator the whole time, telling her favorite male story to his own replacement, despite the fact that he was born already knowing it all. It is beautiful, painful, and just the slightest hint bitter. The audience erupts with approval at the end, both men and women alike, as to bring catharsis through fiction has clearly delivered on his name. I'm still sitting utterly stunned as most of the rest of the theater has long since departed. I take it you liked it, then? Talanika smugly asks. I turn to her, my mandibles hanging open in a completely undignified display I can't bring myself to care much about. Liked it? I sputter. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Oh. Tala responds, seeming quite pleased with herself. Really? That's great. New favorite, huh? I still like Man on a Mission, personally. All the petty undercover shenanigans were hilarious. Oh, well I stop, trying to rack my brain. Man on a Mission? I think I've heard of that before, but I don't remember it. Tala must see my vacant expression and realize the issue, because she immediately has a minor freakout. Oh gosh, Mal, I'm so sorry. It's fine. I reassure her quickly. It's fine. Tala, don't worry about it. I mean, now I can just see it for the first time again, right? We'll see if we can get it on the play schedule, it'll be fun. I give her my most positive facial expression, emoting the best Athanatos smile that I can. She brought me all the way out here to make me feel better and she succeeded, and I'm not going to let the fact that I lost most of my memories and have them replaced with a horrifying parasite that's twisting my mind into someone completely different ruin that for her. Tala looks me over with an odd expression. Oh, Mal, she says softly. You don't have to make me feel better, silly. We're here to help you. Tala is the only person younger than me. Or, I mean, the only Athanatos younger than me in the city. Or I guess she used to be. As the bigger sister, I wanted to set a good example. Maybe I didn't always, but I don't think I did a bad job. We're close. Closer than I ever was to my human family, except for Lynn and maybe Rowan. I barely cared about my siblings until one of them died, but that's when I knew what my purpose was in the family. I'm really bad at dealing with people, sure. But there were things I was good at. Things I could contribute even if I wasn't sure I could care about my family the way I was supposed to. It's my job to protect my family, I tell her firmly. Not the other way around. There's a pause as she gives me another searching look. Is that what all this is? She asks, motioning to my armor. Do you somehow think you failed me? No. I say immediately. I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's complicated. Sis, I'm always going to be here for you, Talanika says. Literally. We are going to be family forever. So don't you dare think I won't be helping you just as much as you help me. Don't think I won't be protecting you as much as you protect me. I love you, Mal. I won't hear of it. I stare at her helplessly. She's right, isn't she? She's not one of a ragtag group of helpless orphan kids that are all one bad day away from bleeding out in a gutter. Talanika might be weak by a Thanatos standards, but she's still stronger than nearly everyone on Verdantop. And if I'm being honest, my human family isn't weak anymore either. They managed without me for years. They're more than just a responsibility that I fulfill to make myself feel better about all the ways I'm a terrible sister to them. They are competent people. They can help if I just ask for it. And Tala can too. I want to tell her. I want to tell her so badly. But will she even think of me as her sister anymore? Am I even her sister anymore? Sorry, Tala, I apologize quietly. You're right. Darn right I'm right, she huffs, crossing half of her arms. Now then. I believe I also promised you dinner, and we'd better get cracking if we want to get there before all the old ladies clog the place up. Yeah, I agree, standing up. Thanks, big sister. She beams at that. You're very welcome, little sister. She cackles. Ooh, I should make my next body taller than you. And you can make your next body extra short. It'll be super cute. I resist the urge to shudder. Yeah, I'm feeling a big no on the whole giving birth to myself thing. That's just a bit too far outside my comfort zone. I should probably swap out of this body before then. I freeze at that. Oh, no. I don't want to swap out of this body. I'm already dreading the idea. Shit. Tobe continued,